We are back. Mary Kennedy, Christy Adkins. Christy is a former Fox News contributor, Daily Show with Jon Stewart. You may have seen her there. Maybe even on TV in Salt Lake, former KUTV medical news expert. Mrs. Maryland International 2015. I was so exhausted reading all this. Elder abuse advocate, a registered nurse with 32 years experience and a master's certification in hypnotherapy. You are so into this Chad Daybell case that you called me and were like, I'm coming to Boise because I want to see this trial. And you actually sat through, you were there on Monday.
Yes.
You were there last week sitting through it. So you were up close and personal to Chad and you watched his lawyer in action. You watched all this go down. And having done all that, you still say nobody had to die, but now Chad has to die.
Daybell has to die. Absolutely. He is evil. He's pure evil.
Quite a leap. How do we get there? I mean, Lori, these were her children. She didn't protect
and
her
she's
children.
in jail, exactly where she needs to be.
But Chad's the one that has to die.
That's correct. She's delusional, and he steered the ship. He was the one in control the entire time. I know what you're thinking. Let me break it down.
Okay, I'm eager to hear this. And I wonder what it is about this case that makes you feel like he's more responsible than her, that the mother of these children, who is behind bars, shouldn't also die, or why Chad should die. Like, why do you make that leap? What is it about this case that makes it so important that Chad dies?
First of all, I recognize a narcissist when I see one, and we can talk about that on a different podcast. Narcissistic abuse is the worst kind of abuse. It is invisible. He has the prophet syndrome. And I can break it down how she's LDS. In the LDS church, they are primed at birth to believe that men are prophets and that God is speaking to them and that the most holy place in the world is their temple. That's God's house on earth. That is the closest you can get to God's house on earth. And they start this at birth. And I have a unique perspective in that I was raised Southern Baptist and I actually converted to Mormonism.
Oh, okay.
So yes, I am a Mormon.
Okay.
And I can tell you firsthand how pure and innocent and loving my LDS brothers and sisters are. And they are so pure. And this evil man took that purity and took advantage of every single belief. And you know what his defense is? He's blaming it on the Mormon church when he actually preyed on the victims of the Mormon church.
I guess I'm not sure how we make the leap that he preyed on her, because the church believes in prophets. The church believes in these specific prophets. The church
Correct.
doesn't say, well, any man out there is a prophet. So what is it about those teachings that makes you think that Chad was able to go in and say, hey, I'm a prophet? Or is that where we're going with this?
So let me explain. So this is where I can get into hypnosis a little bit. When I say hypnosis, I don't mean I'm going to make you quack like a duck or bark like a dog. What I mean is the science. Keep in mind, I'm a nurse first. And by the way, nurses are little mini scientists. We do not have degrees in sexy do-gooder. Okay?
What? Let me look at my degree. Wait, it doesn't say that anywhere.
No,
here.
it's not the little Halloween costume that you see at the Halloween costume store. We are scientists. So with my scientific mind, I hypothesize, and I start with being a mom too. And there's nothing on this planet that could ever make me do that to my children. And I know that's what people are thinking out there right now.
You nailed it right on the head. I'm a mother, right? And if something were to happen to my children, I would want to be held most responsible for that. And I'm so surprised to hear a mother say that Chad has to die, but Lori should be in jail. You're taking the position that Chad should be punished more harshly for something that happened to Lori's kids. And I guess I want to know why.
And you can't see me. I'm on the air, but I'm nodding my head.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Ferociously. Why?
Because, okay, so let's go back to hypnosis then. The critical factor that made you say that, your judgment mind, in hypnosis, we call that the critical factor. Okay. The definition of hypnosis is we bypass the critical factor and we're talking then to the subconscious mind. And each time we tell the subconscious mind, it then gets bigger and bigger as soon as it's validated. So you have to validate it. So first, I have to get past the critical factor. That is your judgment mind. You know, there's a saber-toothed tiger over there, and there's a big bear over there. That's your mind that always keeps you on alert so that you're judging and you're perceiving your environment. I got to get past that. I got to talk to your subconscious mind. So how do I do that? I can do it through laughter. I can do that through marketing, you know, on the radio station. How many times do you play a commercial? Once, and you think that you're going to do the job one time?
No.
Repetition. Right. So repetition. There are many techniques, but the bottom line is we got to get past that judgmental mind, which we call the critical factor, so that we can then talk to the subconscious mind. Okay, the Mormon Church already did that for her by nature of being the Mormon Church. And I will tell you, I believe so much in my church. And you know this, we've had conversations. Yes. They are so pure. They start at birth and they teach them how to be good and do good and serve. And so when you tell someone at the age of 0 to 6, yes, there are prophets out there, voice of God, and then you add in, yes, there is going to be a day of reckoning, the 4400, the end times. That is going to happen. We don't know when, but it's going to happen. So you've already primed their mind and they already know that this is coming, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, that is priming the mind. Okay. Now you take a woman, and this is where I need some empathy. That's going to be hard. Okay. By all accounts, Lori was a good mom prior to meeting this man. Now let me explain modern day Mominism instead of Mormonism. And what I mean by Mominism is, did you see the movie Barbie? Yeah. Okay. The main message in that movie is we don't have to try so hard, right? We have to be beautiful. When we wake up, we got to be beautiful. We got to go to work. We got to be fit, not too thick, not too thin.
You got to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. Yeah. The whole monologue. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's throw in the fact that she had 3 children, one of which was a teenager. So her firstborn son had moved out. That's a loss. Her middle child, is a teenager, like 16, 17. Oh my God, if you haven't been there, let's not even talk about that. We'll talk about that on a different podcast. And then her youngest had autism. And that in and of itself can be very exhausting. And she had no help. She's doing this all by herself. Well, she has to be perfect. She was devout to her church. She went, yes, by all accounts that I have read so far, what I have heard them say in court and what I've heard them say in the news and what I've heard them say in their interviews, she was a very devout Mormon. She was very religious and she was a good mom prior to this. Okay. If we go with those 2 factors, good mom, very devout. If we go with that, now you can say, okay, so she's primed and ready because she grew up in the Mormon church. Okay. And they've already explained to her at birth, there will be prophets, there will be end times, and men are dominant, and you are submissive to men. Then we take her family life, and it's a mess. Her husband has to travel for his job. She's there by herself. And I'm not blaming Charles the victim. I'm not. I just want you to get into the psyche of a mom who has to be everything in 2024. You have to be beautiful. You have to be fit. You have to be a good mom. You have to go to church. You have to believe in Christ. And, oh, by the way, you want to take a nap? Well, you have to do that later because there's nobody to watch kids while you're trying to take a nap. Can you relate to this at all?
I can absolutely relate to that. And I was also raised in a very LDS, the community was all LDS, but I would never murder my children.
Hang on.
Okay.
So now I've told you that hypnosis means you remove the critical factor.
Okay.
She didn't have one because she was primed at birth to believe in a prophet and to believe that there's going to be end times and some of the magical thinking that goes along with a pure heart. And that is even like a Christ-like message. Come to me with a childlike heart. So she did that. Okay, now you take someone who does hypnotherapy and I've got to bypass the critical mind. Remember we talked about that?
Right.
But it's already primed.
Right.
Okay. So the programming that Chad gave her has already been validated by the church prior to her hypnosis. And that's another part of the hard work as a therapist. I've got to validate it, but I need you to go out in the world and validate it. So that's tricky. Well, the validation was already there. The shock and awe of my son moved out, because that's kind of an empty nest, but not really. Yeah. When your firstborn son, and by all accounts, she was very loving to Colby and very devoted to him. And now the shock of having a 16-year-old daughter, the difficulties that come with raising an autistic child. Come on. Yeah. I know they're angels. I know they're blessings. And it's also difficult if you don't have support. And from all accounts that I have seen, and again, if you're listening, go to the comments and let me know if I'm wrong. I want to know how you feel. It's very important.
So your hypothesis is this, because a lot of people are going to say, look, I was raised in that and I didn't kill my kids, or I was raised like that and I believe in prophets and I would never take some man's word for it. So what you're saying is she was raised in that environment and then along comes a man who understands these things about her and then uses them to
manipulate his way. Now, this is where I've got to tell you about how Chad kind of thinks a little bit. And that's why I tell you that she needs to go to jail, because we all know the difference between right and wrong.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
The moment that you choose wrong,
yes,
okay,
yes,
then you go to jail. End of discussion.
Right, and her kids are dead. Yes.
He convinced this woman that her children had left their body and they were in heaven in the eternal zone. So the other thing you have to understand about the LDS religion is this is not the end. Death is not the end. When someone in the LDS church dies, it's a better place. They go to heaven, however they define heaven. And that's a better place than on earth. Okay, so death isn't death the way you and I look at death. She's looking at it through the eyes of heavenly. I didn't kill my children. I transitioned my children to the better place.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, so now we have her children in heaven. This man convinced her that they were zombies. Okay, don't think zombies like Shaun of the Dead. Think zombies like...
like who they really are is gone and it's replaced by another dark
spirit
presence, or...
Well, yeah. Okay, so you have this beautiful little daughter that you're raising who is an angel and they're clinging to your leg. I love you, mommy. I love you, mommy. You're the best mommy in the world. And you go to, I hate you. Yeah. I'm not going to clean my room.
It sounds like a teenager.
Well, yeah. Can you see why she would then believe that her daughter's spirit, her daughter's pure little spirit is gone? Because she transitioned. She transitioned into adulthood. And that's part of a teenager's job. It's their job to pull away. And that is Mother Nature's way of saying pull away from your parents, and the parents' way of being able to pull away from the child, because frankly, by that point, you want them away.
Okay, so we've kind of dug into the psyche of Lori, but you also have some background on what you think might have been going on with Chad. So can we take a break and do another part where we discuss all of the things that you saw in Chad that makes you think this?
Why Chad is the devil and needs to die?
Okay, the devil needs to die.
The devil needs to die.
We'll chat about that again. So come on back to part 3 and listen to Mary and Christy discuss Chad Daybell and his psyche.
Yes, come back and listen to Christy and Mary.
I love you.
I love you.